Right, I'm going to take a start. I'm going to make a start now, if I may. So, again, thank you all for joining us this morning. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sanjay Gardia. I'm head of sales at Standard Life in Finance. And today we have a collaborative session, and I have Philip Calvert joining us. And this session is going to be supporting you with uh, unlock the untapped potential of later life lending, and how Philip will give you some insight in terms of being able to support you with some opportunities and some ideas to capture more later life customers. So I've seen some familiar faces that joined us last week. This is the start of a series of sessions that we've been running. We started last week, which gave the advisor audience, and we had some great attendance in that, an introduction to Standard Life in Finance. So we talked you through our proposition, our USPs, and how we can ultimately support you and your customer. What we are doing, the next session, in fact, so today we've got a session on lead generation. The next session is going to start on Thursday, the 7th of November, and it's an audience with one of our underwriters. So we've got Patrick Leese joining us, and he'll be giving you an overview from an underwriting perspective. Subsequently, on the 14th of November, we've got a session that will be with our post offer team and Enact. So we're kind of taking you through the whole journey, and our last series of the session is on Thursday, the 21st of November, and that's really around the marketing tools that we've got to support you and ultimately your customers when you go through the advice process. So again, without further ado, I am going to hand over to Philip Calvert. Please do note that we've got a Q&A box here. This is a live and interactive session, so if you've got any questions through, please you should put them in the chat or in the Q&A option. Phil has kindly allotted a bit of time towards the end to ensure that we can field some of the questions, and if not, we will get them fired over to you post-webinar. I'm going to put myself on mute, and Phil, over to you, sir. Thank you.
The thought of putting you on mute, Sanjay, is beyond thinking here. So thank you very much indeed. Great to see you. And there's one or two names I recognize here on the list, which is superb. Thank you very much. So I'm not going to waste any time. I want to get straight on with it. Let me just find some slides for you, and we will crack on. Just bear with me. Oh, we just need to do that again because I missed the audio bit. Just bear with. Steady hands on the controls here. So we have that. We have that. And we put the sound on, and we go over here. Right. Can we see everything? I did one of these the other day. We went for a whole hour before someone pointed out they couldn't actually see anything. So
we're all good.
Can. Okay, that's good stuff. So we're here today to talk about marketing and lead generation for later life financial advisors. It's a really exciting marketplace, and sure, conditions change, rates go up, rates go down, lending criteria tightens, lending criteria loosens, but nevertheless, it is a market where there's such huge opportunity for advisors to really get stuck in and to do some real good for people out there. Now, there's only one rule today, and that is that we have open minds. I had originally planned to just focus on 3 areas of marketing lead generation, and I thought, no, there's such a variety of different types of advisor on here today, and no 2 later life advisors are the same. So I'm just going to basically do my best to over deliver, if that's all right with you today. And I've got, I was planning to focus on 3 things. I think I've got 43 different marketing and lead generation approaches that you consider. So hopefully by the end of it, every single person on this call today will have something that they can take away and they can put in place immediately. What I really want to try and avoid today is any sort of theoretical fluff that you so often get about marketing and lead generation, and to really focus on stuff that actually works, proven to have worked. And now we live in a technological age. So I'm going to be covering off some really old school stuff, pre-internet, and I'm also going to be covering some pretty modern stuff as well. So there is literally going to be something for everybody that you can think of. Now, I want to start on a bit of a downer. It's always a good place to start with something I noticed in one of the industry publications. Brits unsatisfied with retirement savings, yet they shy away from advice. Only 1 in 10 UK adults have sought professional advice. Now, it depends how you define adult, and there will, of course, be many people in that group who just aren't appropriate for the services that many financial advisors have to offer. But to me, that says quite a lot about how we are promoting ourselves as an industry, as a profession, and how we're getting our message out there. And the more we can get our message out there, the better, quite frankly. The more that people think maybe later life lending, maybe equity release is something that I need to be considering. And we will be talking about myths that people have around later life. I think that's a real opportunity here, is to tackle head on some of those myths. But there's a variety of different ways that we can do that. Now, one thing I do want to get across is that there is no one right way to market and promote your services. There is no one size fits all approach. That's partly why I want to really focus on quite a lot of different things. So I'm going to start with the 3 most common or effective forms of lead generation for financial advisors. Then I'm going to really broaden it out, and we'll look at a whole range of different things that you can consider. So the 3 most effective forms of lead generation for financial advisors are not necessarily the most popular forms of lead generation. So let's just take a step back as to how people used to find us as financial advisors. Before the internet, if someone was at a dinner party, and someone around the table said, can anybody recommend a mortgage broker for my daughter looking to get her first flat, or something like that, there's bound to be someone around the table who would say, oh yeah, check out my broker, my advisor, Jones & Co. They're great. And back in the day, that single recommendation from another human being, even if it's somebody we'd not actually met before, was generally good enough. And we would write Jones & Co. down on the napkin, and the next day we would go home and we'd phone them up. Today we have the internet. That conversation still takes place. Someone says, yeah, check out Jones & Co. They're great. But that's not necessarily sufficient for us today to just automatically pick up the phone. We tend to want to feel that we have some control over whether or not we want to go with these people. So first thing is we go to Google. We might even go to LinkedIn, or Instagram, or TikTok for that matter. And we might just want to see if we can find Jones & Co. and check them out. And of course, if we type Jones & Co. Reading or Essex or wherever we happen to be, Google will not just show us Jones & Co. They'll show us a whole bunch of other financial advisors who could potentially help us with this mortgage inquiry. Now, this is a danger point, I think, for many financial advisors, because although we've been told actually go talk to Jones & Co., we can see on Google search results a whole bunch of other financial advisors. And it is inevitable, as human beings, we're going to get distracted. So we'll look at Smith & Co., we'll look at Williamson & Co., and we'll look at a whole bunch of other financial advisors. And it may well be that we'll decide for ourselves, actually, it was great that I was recommending Jones & Co., but I actually like the look of Smith & Co. better. Maybe their website looks better. Maybe their photos. Something stands out on Smith & Co.'s website that makes us think, actually, I want to go talk to them. But we also have another factor that we need to keep in mind as well these days. It may well be that, having looked at all these financial advisors' websites, we're thinking to ourselves, actually, I can't figure out which one I really ought to be talking to. But I've just found this YouTube channel which tells me everything I need to know about financial advice, and maybe I can figure this stuff out myself. Now, I know that in the equity release market, people need to talk to an advisor. You can't just go do it yourself. You might want to try and do it yourself. But I hope I'm trying to get across the point here that there are so many choices for consumers out there that a simple recommendation, a referral to a particular advisor doesn't necessarily mean that advisor is going to end up in a conversation with a potential client. So we just kind of need to keep that in mind. Now, we'll talk a bit more about this later. It is a fact that most of the most successful financial advisors in any discipline in financial advice, most of the most successful financial advisors around the world use seminars or one-to-many type presentations as part of their marketing and lead generation proposition. They are the single most effective form of attracting high quality leads, and not just a few leads. You can see very, very high conversion rates as well on this. So we'll talk more about this. Now, I get it that, I mean, I can convince any financial advisor that they need to be putting on seminars or webinars for that matter. But I also know that in the back of their mind, they're thinking, oh, that all sounds like it's going to be quite costly and I've got to hire a room and all that stuff as well. Trust me, there is a process. Follow the process to getting bums on seats. The right people will turn up. And then there's a process for the presentation as well. Again, I will point you to a free resource later on in this presentation where you can get literally the book on how to put on the seminars. But I highlight this one right at the start because, as I said, most of the most successful financial advisors around the world use one-to-many situations to get across their expertise and their credibility. But we'll pick up on that a bit later. The third most popular route for financial advisors to attract clients is their website. But their website just happens to be the most ineffective form of lead generation for financial advisors. We've all got a website, and unfortunately, they all say the same thing. We're going to pick up a bit more on this later. And I have to say that most financial advisors' websites, right across the piece, whether in the later life market or the investment market, the wealth area, whatever, they are actually quite ineffective. So let's dive into this one right from the start and try and nail a few problems that we are struggling with. Because, as I said, if someone said at that dinner party, go talk to Jones and Co., and that person then finds your website, we want that website to be something that says, yep, I have got to talk to Jones and Co. Despite all the other websites that I can see for Smith and Co. and Williamson and Co., Jones and Co.'s website really does it for me. So let's just start with some of the problems that financial advisors' websites are exhibiting. The first thing is we have this gross overuse of cliched imagery on financial advisors' websites. If I had a quid for every compass that I have seen on financials websites, or sailing boats, or musical instruments, or maps, and old people on beaches, and grandparents flying kites with their grandchildren, and people holding green shoots. I don't know why we do this as a profession. And something else that we tend to say, and I get it, if you're dealing in the later life space, you're going to want to have people that put on your website that possibly reflect people in that particular market. And these are just some of the ones that I see. Why we have to have older folks standing or sitting on cliff edges all the time, I really do not know. There's some sort of psychology going on in there, but this is all too common, and it's really quite dull, and it does not do anything to convert people. And what you effectively are getting is you're saying things that people can figure out for themselves. You're sending messages that are really not particularly helpful. We think it's a good idea. Maybe our website designer thought that this sort of imagery really does help, but and vague statements as well that you get on people's websites that really don't help the visitor. Commitment to excellence in customer service, or a client-focused approach, that all sounds great, but that's the ticket to the game today. If you aren't offering a client-focused approach, or if your service, you're not committed to excellence in service, you're not going to get the business anyway. So we've really got to stop all this vague nonsense that we're seeing time and time again. Now, I can do a party piece at conferences and workshops where I can write the About Us page for most financial advisors around the UK, and I can do it without having met them, and they'll be pleased and they'll pay me. And the problem is we have a situation where we are lookalikes. One firm of accountants looks like another firm of accountants, one firm of lawyers looks like another firm of accountants, one firm of financial advisors looks like another firm of advisors. What I'm saying is, don't be a lookalike. You are not paid to look and behave like other financial advisors. Now, the problem with lookalikes, whilst they're initially, it's quite interesting, it's almost amusing, and you get providers, and I'm sure Standard Life Home Finance doesn't do this, who hire lookalikes to be on their stand at conferences and events, so you can stand there with them and have a selfie. And whilst it's quite amusing, it starts to look a bit weird before very long. And some lookalikes, like these two, these two guys staged this somewhere out east, I'm not quite sure where, and they were both deported from the country. So what I'm saying is you cannot afford to be a lookalike. It really doesn't help you. We've really got to think of ways of differentiating ourselves from other financial advisors. So when someone does want to recommend you and they come visit your website, you don't look like every other financial advisor. Now, what I would suggest is if you do want to have some imagery on your website, to just start thinking about the sort of people we're talking about here. Now, this lady on the left is an AI representation, and it's an extremely good AI representation of a lady I know called Jean. She is more than happy for me to tell you that she is in her 80s, and she goes to the same yoga classes as I do. She is not typical of the sort of people that we see on financial advisors' websites. So if you do want to have some imagery, let's just think of what do these people do in this age group today. They are not all sitting in comfy chairs with rugs over their knees in front of the TV. They are out and about. They are doing stuff. Let me give you a couple of practical examples. I took these photos at Wembley Stadium a couple of months back. Rob Halford of Judas Priest was the main images there. Rob, the metal god, as he's known, right? He's in the middle of a world tour right now. He is 73 years of age. The rest of his bandmates are in their 70s as well. And this is not typical. You don't see people like this on websites. Yet there are people over the age of 55 who I assume your target market, who are out there doing extraordinary things. The guy at the bottom, his name is Mick Box from the band Uriah Heep. He is 76 years of age. This guy here, who you might recognize, would fall into the later life lending space. Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters is 55. So it makes you wonder, why are we having these sort of antiquated, cliched images of people that very often really do not reflect older people today. Now, if, however, you want to focus on a niche, and I would always suggest niches, if you do want to focus on lawyers nearing retirement or dentists over the age of 55 or in their 60s, then put pictures of lawyers or dentists on your website. So what I'm saying is, let's just think about this a bit more carefully and avoid the cliches, so that when people do arrive on the website, if they are a fit and healthy person who still does Ironmans and triathlons and likes to do yoga and go to rock concerts, then let's have some pictures that are more representative of those people on your website. So that's my kind of website rant over with. What I'm really saying is, let's be ultra clear about who you want to work with and be clear about your value. Some might say, well, it's anyone over the age of 55. Well, that's fair enough. I get that. But we are going to be much more clear about who we want to work with if we can get some real focus on who we actually work with in that specific age space. So let's just dive now a little bit into some marketing theory. I said we don't want to go down the theoretical fluff route, but it's important that we just explore one particular concept that is really quite important if we are thinking about our marketing, if we're thinking about our lead generation, and we're thinking about how we can attract more of the clients we want. And I want to introduce the concept of a value ladder. The value ladder is the process by which people get to know you, get to like you, get to trust with you, and then want to actually work with you. Let's give you a real example. My dad was a dentist. And this was the sort of value ladder that he would offer. And the sort of value ladder that dentists will offer today. For most dentists, doing fillings and doing anything on the NHS makes them no money whatsoever. My dad used to say to me, you know, I might as well treat a patient on the NHS, give them a £20 note and tell them to come back for more the following month. It's that unprofitable. He said the real profitable business for a dentist is up the top. It's the cosmetic work. In fact, in my dad's day, things like teeth whitening were very much very, very special. These days, teeth whitening is to a penny. So what a lot of dentists will do these days is offer teeth cleaning and maybe even teeth whitening for free, just to get you in the building, so they can see how good you are, and maybe they'll get a nice selfie with the dentist for their Instagram and so on and so forth. So they offer free stuff to get you in, free value, so that it makes it much more likely the relationship is going to build. They will refer you to their friends, because they'll say, look, they're great. They're doing free this, they're doing free that. And in the knowledge that over time you will go up the dentist's value ladder and you will pay for the high quality, the profitable stuff. Chiropractors do a very similar thing as well. Maybe a free consultation, maybe a free massage. What chiropractors really want you to do is to get you on some sort of ongoing care plan. So they've got monthly recurring revenue coming in. And those that do this sort of thing might want to get you onto their real high quality deep dive weekend wellness retreat at a nice hotel with a celebrity chef, celebrity yoga teacher. And so that's where the big money is for chiropractors. Other businesses do the same thing. Gyms have a value ladder as well. In fact, with a gym and health clubs, their value ladder actually has a day of the year where it actually starts, namely January the 1st, when people are thinking, right, I'm going to get fit this year, I'm going to go to the gym. So what the gyms do, they make you an offer you can't refuse, so that you get into that gym for the first couple of weeks, maybe the first month, for next to nothing. They get to know the health professionals there, and the PTs, and it makes it likely that they're going to want to eventually start paying for higher value services. Now, I have my own value ladder for financial advisors, and I'm happy to share this with you right now. At the top of my value ladder for financial advisors is my weekend marketing retreat for advisors. It is expensive. It's in a really nice hotel. We really get under the hood of marketing for financial advisors, real deep dive, but it's very expensive. And no one is going to book on that, though, unless they've experienced any of the other stuff that I offer. So the free stuff or the really cheap stuff is down the bottom. So some of you may know the Life Talk group on Facebook, which is for financial advisors. It's been going 20 years. We've got a LinkedIn group as well. I give away free ebooks, free e-guides, checklists. I've got a podcast. I do like a scorecard, how good is your LinkedIn profile? Take the test. It's all free, but it's all value for financial advisors. I've got books. I do webinars. So all the stuff in green is usually free. The stuff in blue is has a small charge to it. I've got a subscription community as well. I do workshops like this one as well with coaching calls. So I'm not sitting here promoting my products. What I'm trying to say to you is that I have a value ladder. It's a pathway that I have designed, that the idea is so that financial advisors can get to know me, build up a bit of trust, get to know me, so that maybe one day they'll come on my weekend retreat. Now, it's fair to say that not everyone by a long shot ends up going on my weekend retreat. But if I get to the point where a financial advisor said, well, could we do some coaching calls? Fantastic. We've made real progress there. So how could we apply this to financial advisors and the later life market as well? Well, here are some ideas that each and every person on this call today could consider. Now, I'm not saying do all of these things. What I'm saying is, why not pick out 2 or 3 things on this list that you could consciously use as part of your value ladder? It could be a tip sheet. It could be an e-guide. It could be a checklist. 10 things you need to think about before meeting a later life advisor. Put it on your website, give it away for free. All they've got to do is give you their name and email address. That's called a lead magnet. All of these things really are lead magnets. Now, in the UK, we find the word lead magnet a bit salesy, but that's what they are. If you want to call it something else, call it a value piece or something like that. But they are pieces of value that are really easy to create, that you give away for free to people in exchange for their email address. And it is a fair exchange of value. They get some instant value, something that will help educate them a little bit. You get their email address, and that enables you then to follow up on that email address to do whatever it is you want. So e-guide, tips books, your own AI, a scorecard, a quiz. You could give away an audiobook, a podcast. You could do videos, and so on and so forth. As you see, you could progress up the list. They get more and more valuable to people. So that's something to think about. Some financial advisors even write their own books. I think there's real potential for advisors in the later life market to write a book, if not a book, a report or a white paper, printed up nicely. And here are just some examples of financial advisors that use books as lead magnets or value pieces. Catherine Morgan, you may have seen her on Facebook. She has a very clear focus on financial planning for women, and she does online challenges, and they are free, and people join them, they get real value from it, and then it makes it much more likely that they might want to work with her more closely. So let's dive in and we're going to, some of these are going to be fast and furious, and some of them will go into in a bit more depth. So again, let's just take a little step back in time and look at a classic piece of marketing. Back in 2002, Bic razors created this wonderful marketing piece. Now, this won marketing in all the marketing award ceremonies and in all the marketing magazines. This won awards, and it was a real billboard in the middle of a field, and they'd cut the grass and make it look like the razor had cut the grass. The only thing about this was hardly anybody actually saw it unless they read the right magazines. But it was nevertheless very clever, and I love collecting real classic pieces of marketing. Now, if they were doing that today, what they might do is encourage you to stand in front of it, get your phone out, take a selfie of it, so that you would then do their marketing for them. You'd be standing in front of this, and you take your selfie and you put it on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you like to promote your stuff. Now, there are people who will have you believe that this is what you should be doing if you are a financial professional. What they are suggesting is that you should be promoting yourself literally everywhere you possibly can, all of the time. On Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, on Facebook. Have your own newsletter, have your own blog, have your own podcast. And to some extent, I subscribe to that with one condition, which I'll come on to. But you and I all know that this simply isn't possible. Unless you've got somebody else to be doing this for you, it really isn't possible to be sharing every single aspect of your life or your business on every single platform all the time. It's just not possible. Now, I used to do this myself back in the day, and it is nothing short of exhausting, and all we're actually really doing is just adding to the noise. So the condition I would say is, fine, use some of these platforms if you want to do that, but only promote your expertise where your ideal clients are hanging out. So if, for sake of argument, you are an equity release specialist for dentists, for sake of argument, then I would be thinking about, okay, well, where do dentists hang out online? Or better still, what podcasts do they listen to? Maybe I could become a guest on that. What magazines do they read? Maybe I could put an article on that. What YouTube channels do they like to follow? Maybe I could be more visible on that. So if anyone is telling you you should be doing this with your marketing as a financial advisor, don't. It's as simple as that. What you should really be thinking about is this. What's your niche? Or more specifically, where is your core expertise? To say to an advisor, just focus on dentists who, or dentists in retirement who want to release equity, unless you really do have a foothold in that market, that's going to be a bit of an ask. What I'm saying though is, well, what's your core expertise? Everybody on this call has got expertise in the later life world, but each of you know, actually, I've got expertise in perhaps this particular aspect of it, or I'm very good at this, or have skills on that, and to really start thinking about that. But in an ideal, we'll really start thinking about what is your perfect client. If the perfect client was to phone up today or get in touch via your website, what would they look like? Could you actually describe them in detail? What age are they? What do they do for a living, or what did they do for a living? What is their life stage right now? Why do they want to, why are they considering later life lending? I know that each and every one of you could actually, if you were to do this right now, create an image or a picture, and you could describe this person. And I'd strongly encourage you to really think about doing this. Then set your goals. Okay, having identified this person, where do they hang out, online or in the real world? So in other words, where should I focus my marketing? And then also be thinking about, okay, if I'm going to do some marketing, I've got to put a strategy in place. I'm going to employ some specific tactics. think about how am I measuring these things as well. So let's have a look at one or two people. So this is Keith. He's been a financial advisor for as long as I can remember. He's just up the road from me here. He uses the internet extensively. He puts quite a bit of content onto LinkedIn, but he's also a real lover of old school marketing as well. He's even done car stickers. He's had his logo put on wheel covers for 4x4 vehicles. He's had posters on bus stops. But what he tends to find, his two most effective marketing tactics are one to many. Well, it comes under the topic of one to many. Remember I said earlier, seminars, he uses one to many in another way. He appears on local radio. He's built up a relationship with a local BBC radio station. Once a month, they get him in and they talk about personal finance. But what he also does is he sponsors roundabouts. So he's near Guildford, and he's been sponsoring roundabouts for donkey's years. And he said to me, we sponsored roundabouts for many years, which made a huge difference. Clients would hear me on the radio, see the name on the roundabout, then they would get in touch. And he told me that literally every single new client that he took on board, as they walked into his office, they would say one of two things. They would say either, oh, I heard you on the radio the other day, or I saw the roundabout. And there's one particular roundabout outside Guildford, which he says gets 84,000 vehicles goes past it every single week. So think about that. We've all seen roundabouts where there's been a little sign on it says sponsor this roundabout. I throw that one to you as a proper old school idea that is ridiculously effective. And I think one of the things about marketing, when we are convinced by a marketing person, oh, you need to have a website or you need to have a podcast, we tend to take that as read that maybe it's a good idea. And we take it in good faith. We open up our website, and I know most financial advisors never bother to look at their website stats as to how many people have looked at their website. So they don't actually know if anyone's visiting their website. With something like a roundabout or something like a radio station, they'll tell you how many people will see your ad each week or each month. So old school, I grant you, but ridiculously effective. And as I said, his combination of doing both are a one-to-many strategy, works particularly well for him. Okay, so let's look at something else. I wonder if any of you can guess what the number is that I've blacked out there. Let's reveal it. 144 times a day. Yeah. And our kids who are not exactly in the later life market, they use it an awful lot more. So if our clients or our prospects or our potential clients are using that many using their mobile that many times a day, why don't we put an advert right in front of them? Some of you watching this will know that it is possible to download a little link to your mobile phone. You can put it on your desktop. Visit any website, and depending on whether you're on Android or Apple, there'll be a way to add a link from your home screen. So this is the home screen of my mobile phone, and you can see my website is on my own mobile phone. And what I've actually done is I created a little screen video to show my clients how to add my website to the home screen of their mobile phone. The little video, it's all of 15 seconds long, but that's something that you could do if you've got clients, once you've got a relationship with your client going. And I know when it comes to later life lending, it tends to be like, it's sort of, you deal with a client almost once. You do that job of work. However, once you have a later life client on board, they are the source of potential referrals for you. And it's a good idea to remind them of you by putting a link on their mobile phone to your own particular website. Super easy to do. Something else to do. If I was going to recommend, here I'm saying have pictures of older people on your website, but doing activities that are really relevant to your target market. Something else I would suggest you put on your website is video testimonials. Jones Hill actually recently sold their business, so that you won't be able to find their website, but theirs was the best website I ever saw of any financial advisor. Why? Because on the homepage of their website, it had 3 or 4 testimonials, video testimonials from clients on their website. Once you put video testimonials on your website, it makes it very difficult for somebody who's thinking of hiring you to go elsewhere. And if you want to differentiate your website from every other financial advisor, put video testimony. There is nothing more powerful than seeing Carol or Paul or Mike or Reagan saying, you know, since meeting Jones Hill or Jones and Co, it's been a weight off our shoulders. He's been or she's been like a member of our family coming in, and I cannot recommend them highly enough to people looking for an equity release expert. Video testimonials feature real people in their own homes, on their own sofa, talking about financial advisors in a really human way. I would say if you do nothing else as a result of today's call, get some video testimonials from clients onto your website. If you don't have a budget for hiring a team, and to be quite honest, getting some professional videographers really isn't as expensive as it used to be. Do it yourself. Do it on your mobile phone. Most mobile phones can record video in broadcast quality these days. Put a bit of effort into the lighting. Make sure the sound is fine, and just start with that. And then if you've got a bit more budget, then do that. You can sometimes go to a local college or local university and find some students who are doing video studies, and they'll be more than happy to do it as part of their portfolio or something like that. I really cannot stress this enough as to how powerful and how valuable video testimonials are. Let's talk about social proof. Any opportunity where people have given a rating of you or a testimonial. Some of the industry sites are vouched for, but equally you could also use Glassdoor. You can use what are the other? I've forgotten off the top of my head. Google reviews as well. Any kind of social proof where people rate you, for sake of an example, get that onto your website as well, and it's a kind of proof that other people have given you a good rating. Now let's try something completely different. How about client walks? This is something I know about half a dozen financial advisors do, and they say it's the best thing they've ever done. It costs nothing for you to do this, and all you need to do is put on your website or send an email to your existing clients and say, hey, once a month, we're going to have a little walk. We'll start at our office, or we'll start at a local park, wherever in your particular area, and we'll go for a bit of a ramble for either half an hour or 2 hours. You decide, and we'll just chat. There's no business talk. It's just a piece of value that you are giving your existing clients. And if you have existing later life lending clients, they are the first people to invite. And what are you going to say to them? Say, look, if there's somebody else, if you've got any friends, please bring them along as well. You can maybe start at a coffee shop or end at a coffee stop or end at a pub, whatever. You decide. But this is a brilliant form of marketing that helps you to get to know your clients. But my goodness, is it powerful as a way to attract new referrals and new introductions to you. If you think the fresh air is a bit too much, why don't we stay indoors? I know several financial advisors who have their own wine club. They approach a local off license or something like that, who are more than happy to do a wine tasting either in your office or in a local pub or on their premises. Again, invite your clients to come along. This is super simple stuff, and make it part of your proposition. Whether you're having whether you do client walks or you have a wine club or something of that nature, put it on your website. Make it part of your proposition. Show that you are eager to be part of the local community. I think one of the things about the internet is that we've been sold this idea that now that we have the internet, we can work with any client anywhere in the UK, and indeed we can. But most financial advisors would rather work with people who are right on their doorstep, people who are already in your community. And people who are already in their community, they love stuff like this. So I know several advisors who do the client walks, several who do the wine club, and they all absolutely swear by it. It's adding value, nothing more than that, but it's giving you the opportunity to get to know people, your clients and get to know you a little bit better as well, and it makes it much more easy for them to refer their friends to you. How about congratulate local movers and shakers? Again, just keep an eye on your local newspapers, your local websites, your local Facebook groups, local magazines, and send letters of congratulations to people who are doing well. Just put yourself out there a bit. These are simple, really easy proactive things to do that just raise your profile a little bit. You don't need to send them a sales letter and say, oh, congratulations. Oh, by the way, we do equity. Just say, look, as another local business person, one-to-one, I just wanted to say congratulations. If you're ever in the dog and duck, let's meet up sometime. This is a simple, proactive outreach to people so that you are building relationships with the local community. What else could you do? If your target market just happens to be dentists or it happens to be accountants, they all have their own trade magazines. Get featured and write in trade. Trade magazines are always looking for articles from experts in particular areas that adds value to the content of their particular magazine. And some of them will even pay you to do it. And most of them, you'll have to do it for free, but that's fine. And that's free marketing for you. Write an article on some aspect of financial advice, personal finance, be it later life lending. If the person reading the magazine isn't interested, they may well know somebody and they might want to tear the page out the magazine and send it on to their friend. So writing in trade magazines is a fabulous thing. I hope what you're also seeing so far is that just about everything I've suggested so far costs you nothing. And most of it's old school stuff as well. It costs you nothing to do this. How about another one? How about a golf clinic? It may well be that you like golf, or maybe you're into bowls or tennis or whatever. If you are at your local golf club, chances are you will pick up new clients from them. But let's turn this around. Why not pay? So this one will cost you. Maybe there'll be one or two of your clients who would love to come along to have a golf lesson on your dime. Bring them along. Again, what we're really doing here is just adding to your proposition with something that gets you into the local community. One of my little hobby horses, I send out an email newsletter to financial advisors every single week. We've got a general one and we've got a marketing one as well. And a certain percentage every single week, I get we're out of the office, automatic email comes back. But what I'm astonished by is I would say around 90% of financial advisors out of office emails never mention visiting their website. They always come back saying, sorry, we're out of the office at the moment, call back on Monday at 9 a.m. or whatever. They very, very rarely say, sorry, we're out of the office at the moment. If your inquiry was about later life lending or pensions or protection or whatever, please visit this particular page of your website. This tells me that huge numbers of financial advisors don't really see their website as an asset of their business. And that's something I was really trying to allude to earlier. We really need to start taking these tools seriously. So on your out of office email, go back to it and add an extra line to it. Said, if you're asking about XYZ, please visit this particular page of our website. So if somebody does send you an email and they get your out of office email, the conversation doesn't end there. They're at least given the opportunity or the chance to go visit your website. And do the same on your answer phone message. Sorry, we're not in the office at the moment. If you were calling about XYZ, please visit this page of our website. Okay. Use these opportunities to steer people to your website or to your lead magnets or something else that's on your value ladder. We talked about video testimonials. Something else you could do, takes a bit more work, is create video case studies as well. One thing I am starting to see on later life advisors' websites these days is case studies, and that's fantastic. One thing I would suggest is possibly do it as a video case study. If you have clients who don't particularly want to be featured in your video case study, then just do it you talking to camera. Or maybe put on a little webinar where you're talking about case studies. You can anonymize the case studies, or what I would, if you can, I'd go and actually, if you've got a brilliant case study, actually ask the clients and say, look, we do video case studies. Your story could really inspire other people. We tend to work on referrals. Would you be happy to be featured? You'll get some people say no. You'll get some people who say more than happy for you to do that. So think about video case studies. How about another one? Infographics. Really powerful one here. Not everybody wants to read your blog. Not everybody wants to watch a video. Not everyone wants to watch your video case study, but some people like pictures. I knew a financial advisor in the United States who was a real expert on how to improve your credit score. And he used to write blogs and articles about credit score and how to do this. And one member of his team said, so this is great, but is there another way that we could get your expertise out there? And he created an infographic. Which I think is a really clever idea. And I've since seen some other financial advisors do this on credit scores, for example. And I know credit scores aren't as relevant as perhaps a mortgage when it comes to later life lending, but I've seen one financial advisor use a kind of snakes and ladders approach, where if you do this, you go up a ladder and it improves your credit score. But if you do this, you hit the snake and you go down back to where you started. You don't need to be a graphic design expert. You could go to websites like Canva, that's Canva, C-A-N-V-A, where they've got ready-made infographic tools where you just literally drag and drop or get somebody to do it for you. So here's another way of explaining what you do or how you operate or your expertise, or explaining perhaps myths around later life lending and equity release that will appeal to some people simply because it's in a visual format rather than other formats that we've got. Okay, hope you're finding this useful. As I said, we're going quite quickly. How about another marketing tool? Yep, your face. I think your face is one of the most underused marketing tactics you can around. It's one of the reasons seminars work so well. I know a mortgage advisor in Belfast who gets about a 95% conversion rate. And the reason he says to me why I do that is he says, because I do seminars and I put myself in front of people so that people can see the whites of my eyes. People by people. We've always heard that one. Get your face out there. Human beings are hardwired to look at faces, not logos. And, you know, it's true that some faces are more attractive than others. Let's take Mr. Ronaldo, for example. He's got more Instagram followers than all of the followers of all the Premier League teams put together. I put that slide together quite a while ago, and I looked it up again recently, and it's actually significantly higher than that. So faces are really appealing. How can we get our face more into our marketing? So one of the things I would suggest, put your face on your business card. Put your face in your email signature. People just love faces. And a lot of people find faces in places where there really are not faces at all. Human beings love to try and find faces. We even try and find animals' faces in places where there really are not animals' faces. So if I present you this, you know, which would you rather look at? Would you rather look at a boring old logo, or would you rather look at a human face? So just kind of think about it. Faces work. Think of all the different ways that you can get your face into your marketing. Okay, so we talked about client walks. We talked about wine tasting. Here's another thing you could do. A lot of the clients that you have will have children, and they might even have grandchildren as well. I know a number of financial advisors who put on movie afternoons where they send, and this is something they do pay for, but I know a couple of financial advisors who put on movie afternoons where they don't pay for the tickets. They just say, Jones and Co is going to be at such and such cinema. We're going to be watching a kids movie, whatever it is. Bring your kids, bring your grandchildren along. And they are amazed how many of their clients will pay to come along just to be with you because they know you. Really, really powerful. Great way. Again, put it as part of your proposition. Say we have regular movie afternoons for our clients' kids, their grandchildren, and so on and so forth. So I hope, again, the message is coming across. A lot of this is really old school. It's just using our imaginations as to how we can add value to our clients, add value to a range of different local people. Here's another one to keep it local. One of the most successful financial advisors I've ever met, Martin Bamford at Informed Choice in Cranley, right at the core, right at the heart of his marketing was his business. He and his business and the people working in his team would get involved in the local community. The Cranley in Bloom flower competition. They would be out there weeding the local flower beds. They would be getting involved in the local park run. They would be getting involved in the local fireworks night. And it makes great PR as well. I mean, they didn't do it just for the PR. They did it because they cared about their local community. But inevitably, it led to great PR as well. And they inevitably would take pictures, and they put pictures of them getting involved in the local community. They would put them on Instagram. They would put them on their Facebook page. They would put them on their website as well. And he told me it is astonishing how many clients they brought in as a direct result of getting involved in their local community as well. So something to think about as well. Text messaging, interesting one. One thing I'm quite surprised about is how few financial advisors ask new clients what their preferred communication style is. I'm not saying from here on in, bombard your clients with text messaging. What I am saying is ask clients how they like to be communicated. Say to them, look, would you be interested if we've got something we want to say, or we've got something new on our website, or we've got a new newsletter, would you be happy to receive a text message? Just ask clients. There'll be a lot of clients, a lot of financial advisors tend to say to clients, this is how we want you to communicate with us. Use this form on our website, or use this email address. When in fact, there'll be a lot of clients who would rather pick up the phone. Some would rather send a WhatsApp message or whatever. What I'm saying is, as part of your getting to know clients, ask them how they like to be communicated with. Okay. PR. When I first went self-employed 100 years ago, a friend of mine was a BBC journalist, and she said to me, oh, good luck with your business, Phil. Tell me, what's your PR strategy? I would say that went straight over my head, largely because I hadn't really thought about it and I didn't even know what she meant. And she said, for goodness sake, get in the habit of telling the press everything that goes on in your business. If you're putting on a client walk, tell the press. If you're putting on a movie day for clients, tell the press. If your colleagues have been on a customer service course, tell the press. You painted the outside of your office, tell the press. If you've got a new computer system that's going to help with customer service, tell the press. She said to me then, 90% of what you tell the press won't end up in the press, but you could easily put all these press releases on your website, which will get picked up by Google. She said, but what you're really doing with PR is you're building relationships with the press. And the really important reason for building relationships with the press is so that when something big happens on a national level and the press are going to write about it, who are they going to ask for their opinions on? Guess who? Press, journalists are going to ask financial advisors where they've got a relationship. Now, just around the corner from this very presentation that I'm doing today, we have, guess what? A budget that is being talked about every single day by all aspects of business and one way or another, everyone's going to be impacted by it in some way, shape or form. Tax may go up, it may not go up. Inheritance tax may be affected, it may not be. Nobody knows what's going to happen just yet. But a lot of journalists are putting in a lot of educational guesses. Now, if I was a financial advisor right now, what I would be doing is making sure that I am on the radar of my local journalists, because one way or another, local journalists are going to be writing stuff about the budget as it impacts local people. Build relationships with journalists, because when something big happens on the national scale or even the local scale, they're going to want the learned and expert opinion of people they've got relationships with. Now, some of the stuff that you do send the press, like your client walks, like your movie weekends, whatever it is, like you getting involved in the local community, it will end up in the press. That's free marketing for you. So I know a lot of people think, well, how on earth do I write a press release? For goodness sake, just go to ChatGPT, tell it that you've got involved in the local park run or the local litter pick on a Sunday afternoon, and ask it to write a press release. It will do a perfectly good job of it. Fine tune it, send it to the press. Get in the habit of sending communications to local journalists about what you're doing in your business. Okay, onwards. I can't remember why I put this on. Weekly review of the personal finance pages. So we've got the budget coming up. The Sunday papers immediately after it are going to be jam-packed with opinion. Journalists will be putting their opinion. Journalists will be educating consumers about various aspects of personal finance. I mean, why do financial advisors allow journalists to do what they should be doing? Okay, they do it because they've got a platform for doing it. I now know about a dozen financial advisors who every Monday morning will send out a short newsletter, either usually an email, or they'll do a short webinar where they review the personal finance pages in the previous Sunday or Saturday. So the Saturday Telegraph usually got lots of personal finance stuff, Sunday Times, all the newspapers, okay? But what you could then do is pick 3 things out of the Sunday papers or the Saturday papers in your Monday newsletter or your Monday webinar and say, right, there was this article about mortgages. There was this article about later life lending. It was a good article. They made this point, they made that point, but they completely missed this point. This is something that our clients need to know. So in other words, yes, a journalist writes an article, but you then give your opinion on it, and you do it in a really simple, easy way, a quick newsletter, email, or a quick webinar, something like that. You decide how you do it. So you're using other people's content that is highly topical, and then you put your spin on it. In other words, you are then positioned, you're the experts. Most of these journalists aren't regulated. Okay, they're not giving financial advice, but it comes pretty damn close, doesn't it? You're the experts on this, so you take the higher ground on this. But if you say in your little newsletter, hey, there was an article in the Sunday Times, this is my view on the article, you are positioning yourself as actually the expert on this. Super easy to do. Takes you no time at all. A local news column. I know lots of financial advisors now who have approached their local town or the local county newspaper, and they've approached them and said, would you be interested in a short article? Again, really simple to do. Stick your neck out, get some free marketing. And as I said, just like I mentioned earlier about local trade magazines, some local newspapers will actually pay you to do this. So I love marketing where you get paid to do the marketing. It works really well. We also need to think about, if you talk to website designers and say, I want to create a new website, the first thing they'll be thinking about is, what will it look like on a mobile phone? Yep. What will it look like on a mobile phone? Here's a little link that you can use to test how mobile friendly your website is. I will make sure that you'll get a copy of the slides, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a recording of it available as well, but I'm more than happy to share this link with you separately. Your About Us page. As I said earlier, I can write the About Us page for pretty well any financial advisor anywhere in the UK, and I can do it without having met them. And it's largely because they all say the same thing. And I just want to give you an example of it. This is a real one. All I've done is change the name. And this is what most financial advisors write on their About Us page on their website. And quite frankly, with the best will in the world and with all due respect, I couldn't give a monkey's what this says here. What I could give a monkey's about is what usually comes afterwards. Stuff that I might actually be able to connect with. If I'm interested in health and fitness, this has now got my attention. If I go to CrossFit, maybe this has got my attention. If I like walking in the Surrey countryside, maybe this has now got my attention. If I like gin, maybe this has got my attention. People buy people. They want to hear more about us as individuals. So in an ideal world, what I would do is I would swap the bottom 2 paragraphs with the top 2 paragraphs. Lead with about you, and then follow with the credentials, and so on and so forth. Of course, the credentials and the qualifications are important, but what I'm really saying is what is more important is you as a person. You only need one person who's thinking about a later life mortgage for themselves or for their family members, who happens to go to CrossFit, and you've got their attention in this particular case. So just really think about this. Think about you as a person. What can people buy into? And I know some advisors who really go to town on this, and they even get a professional copywriter to write about them. Human beings are drawn to other people, and they are drawn to their stories. And if you can get some aspect of what has made you the person you are today, that is really powerful. And that also works particularly well if you're doing seminars as well. If you're putting on a seminar on myths around later life lending, actually what you want to start your seminar with is all about you. Why are you the person who's standing in front of them? Human beings want to know about other human beings, and what they're particularly interested in is, what have you got in common? So use your website about us page to try and get across as much about you as you possibly can. Okay, onwards. We've hit the hour mark. We're scheduled for 90 minutes. Well, I want to try and make sure we've got some time for some questions if we are. Hope you're finding this useful. Let's press on. I mentioned earlier about lead magnets or pieces of value. Now, we've all seen on the internet or in the past, get rich quick lead magnets. Just give us your name, give us your email address. I would, and I just use this as a silly example. If you have a niche market, be it dentists, be it accountants, be it people who are interested in fitness, create a lead magnet just for them. I perhaps should have shown this slide a little bit earlier, as it's more relevant to the value ladder section. But I just want to mention, niche markets don't just have to be dentists or specific occupations. A really interesting niche market that you might want to think about and to highlight on your website is people who are going through a period of change or transition in their lives right now. Is a very interesting niche market. And if you are a person who's going through some sort of change in your life or transition in your life right now, and you are on the website of a financial advisor and it appears to be speaking to you, that will get their attention. And this is particularly the case in the later life market as well. People who have perhaps recently retired are people who are going through change or transition. People whose kids have just gone off to university are people who are going through a period of change in their life. People who are just about to approach retirement is a period of change in their life. People who are starting to consider seriously that a relative might need to go into care is a period of change in their lives. So if you were creating a lead magnet, or if you wanted to appear to be focusing on a niche without actually focusing on a niche, then think about people who are going through change or transition. And I'm sure each and every one of you could think of some examples of people who would fit that bill, who fit very nicely into the later life market as well. Okay, onwards. Here's another slightly different one. Lunch and learn. Instead of having a client walk or a wine tasting, why not get somebody who is in your local community to come into your office, if you have an office space, or maybe at a local hotel, wherever, it doesn't really matter where the venue is, to teach people something. Again, you make this part of your proposition. So art is an interesting one. You will inevitably have people in your marketplace who might be thinking about taking up watercolor painting or something like that. There will, I guarantee you, to be a local watercolor artist who will be more than happy to come and do lessons once a month or once a week for your clients. Okay, so it's part of your proposition. They come to get to know you, they're getting value from you, and it is inevitable that they will want to tell their friends and associates, oh, I'm going to this fantastic art club. It's run by our local financial advisor. You might find it useful. You get what I'm saying on this. So lunch and learn really works well, nice and relaxed, nice and friendly, adds value. How about networking? This is a question that comes up a lot in our Life Talk group for financial advisors, where financial advisors, hey, does anybody go to BNI? Does anybody go to any other networking events? Now, BNI is the largest networking organization in the world. Some of you might be members of it. Many BNI members swear by it because you will be the only financial advisor at the BNI. So they have one accountant, they have one lawyer, they have one dog groomer, and so on and so forth. And so there's a kind of built-in community that if somebody needs a financial advisor in that group, you're the one that gets recommended. Okay. On the other side of the coin, not everyone likes BNI because of that very factor. But nevertheless, it works for some, it doesn't work for others. For those that it does work for, they swear by it. But BNI is not the only networking game in town. NRG Networks is another one. Network B2B, LinkedIn Local, are other networking events. And we'll also start to see some newbies that are a bit more focused online. Inch is a new one. Meow is a new one. And there's a lovely website called findnetworkingevents.com, which every single week sends you a list of hundreds of networking events all around the UK. And, you know, I think most financial advisors would really benefit by putting aside, you know, if not once a month, once a week or once every other weeks, pop along to a local networking event and get involved and go, you know, see what you can do. Now there are financial advisors who thought let's turn this on its head, and I know advisors now who run their own networking events. They're not trying to take over from BNI or any of these other, but and what they're simply doing is, if you are a business person, whether you are a one-person business in your local community, you will inevitably know other business people. You may even have some suppliers, people who provide your paper clips or whatever it is. And a nice little idea is to proactively get in touch with other local business people you know and say, look, why don't we all get together for a beer on Friday afternoon? Let's meet at the Dog and Duck. Let's have a couple of beers. Each of us can do like a 5-minute talk, and who knows where it will lead. That's all you need to know. Before LinkedIn appeared, there was a networking organization called Academy with an E on the front. And the way it started was the founder, a guy called Thomas and Penny Power. They were great networkers, and they did exactly that. They said, why don't we get a few business friends around? Let's meet up in a local hotel, have a few drinks, somebody can do a talk, and then we'll all do exactly the same thing again next month. And each person brings along a friend. And this thing built and built and built. And they decided then to create a website to run alongside it called academy.com. And it was the first B2B social networking platform, and they were doing that before LinkedIn. Now, they didn't have the money to continue it, but they had hundreds of thousands of members all around the world, and it was all started because one of them said, hey, why don't we meet up with a few local business people and do that? Now, you don't want to go to that sort of lengths, but just proactively keeping the relationship plates spinning positions you as a person of authority in your local community. People will come to you, they'll come to your event, and it gives you a wonderful platform to get across what you do. And it is inevitable that you will get referrals and introductions that come from putting on your own event. Okay, we press on. Articles and blogs. Now, I showed a slide earlier on that said that some marketing people will tell you that you need to be putting content everywhere, all over the place, all of the time. Not really practical. However, I think there's a lot to be talked about in the equity release in the later life lending space. There's a lot of case studies. There are a lot of myths that are still out there. And I think a lot of financial advisors could benefit by writing the occasional article, putting it on their website. If you put articles on their website, Google loves that. It's new content. It'll help you to get found in Google search results. And here's the thing, not just in Google search results, but in Bing search results. Remember, Google is not the only search engine in town. Bing, which is owned by Microsoft, is a very powerful search engine. Give yourself the opportunity to be found in them. But here's another thing. Many people are now using ChatGPT, the AI tool, ChatGPT, as a search engine. And I know many financial advisors now who are telling me that they are being found by people in ChatGPT search results. Now, there is a way to get more visibility in ChatGPT search results. It's a little bit different from optimizing your website for Google and Bing search results. If anybody wants to know more about how to get found in ChatGPT search results, I have a resource at the end. But there's a lot to be talked about in the later life space. So that gives you plenty to write about. Now, if you are genuinely can't think what to write about, just answer questions. Make a note of every question that your clients ever ask about later life lending, and that will give you material to write a blog. Or it doesn't have to be a blog. You could do videos, you could do podcasts, you could answer questions. There's a website called Quora where people just ask questions about everything under the sun, and you can go answer them. If you're ever stuck for what to write articles and blogs about, there's a wonderful website called Answer the Public. Let me just quick sip here. I think it's answerthepublic.com. And what answerthepublic.com does is it curates questions that people ask on Google. So you could go to Answer the Public, and you could type in pensions or equity release or protection or mortgages, and it will give you hundreds of questions, and it displays them in a really interesting way. Hundreds of questions that people have asked about that, and you've got no end of topics that you could write blogs about as well. Okay, more about getting into the local community. I mentioned golf earlier. I mentioned wine tasting. I mentioned client walks. This guy on the left, Jeremy Squibb, financial planner down in Cornwall, I said to him, where does your ideal client hang out, Jeremy? And he said, well, ironically, they hang out at our local bowling club. So I said, Jeremy, where do you do your marketing? And he said, Phil, in our local bowling club. And as you can see on the picture there, he's presented a cup. His sign is on the fence of the bowling club for his £300 for 5 years advertising. Hear that again, £300 for 5 years advertising. He is visible exactly where his ideal clients hang out. And he said a bonus benefit of doing this, which I had not expected, was they have a competition most weeks and months of the year. And he said what quite often happens is a local journalist turns up, and I get to present some of the cups, and quite often my advertising board is in the background. And he said quite often by accident I end up in the local press. So I said not only do I get clients from members of the local bowling club, but I also get clients as a result of being picked up by local press coverage of the local bowling club. This is so old school. I mean, this is what we used to do before the internet came along, but it still works. I think as financial advisors, very often we've been conned that the internet will do all the work for us. We've got lazy as well. We think that by having a website, we can tick a box, say, great, I've got my website. I'm now in the world of e-commerce. I can sit back and I can let the clients just roll in. You know, it does happen in some cases, but we do actually have to put a bit more proactive activity. Okay, let's move on. I hope you're finding these useful. Something else you can do, sponsor local awards. Most local towns, cities have business awards. If you have the budget to do that, you can sponsor it. You can get to, sometimes you can get to present an award as well. Nice simple one there, gives you a lot of visibility. Guess who's going to be there? Lots of journalists. Here's another one. This is a relatively new idea, but I'm starting to see more and more financial advisors do this. I mentioned that I have a Facebook group. It's called Life Talk. It's for financial advisors. It's been going about 20 years. We've also got a Life Talk group on LinkedIn as well. And we've got over 10,000 financial advisors right across the financial advisor market who are members of this group. It is an online community. I mentioned in my value ladder earlier that this is one of the ways that I add value to financial advisors, by creating a community. I've got a couple of other groups. I have a thing called the Advisor Growth Community as well, which is a brand new one, which has got a slightly different angle. It's much more focused on marketing and lead generation. But I've also got another group for financial advisors who are really into AI, called the AI Prompt Vault. And it is a series of prompts that you use to get stuff that you want from AI, ChatGPT. Now, these are really powerful, and I'm starting to see more and more financial advisors now are creating communities for their clients. They are usually free communities. They are usually private online communities. Sometimes they're private Facebook groups. There's a variety of different platforms that you can use to create private communities. So Facebook is one of them. LinkedIn is another. Mighty Networks is another one. School is another one. Passion.io is not. So you pay your money, you take your choice. But they are brilliant ways of continuing to add value to your client base. But here's the thing: if a member of your client is a member of your online community, it's only a matter of time until they tell their friends, oh, you want to come, I'm a member of a financial advisors community. There's all sorts of useful tips about personal finance issues and so on and so forth. Come and join. So by adding value to your clients through an online community, it all but guarantees that you will attract new clients or new prospects to come into your world. Now, just to add a bit of icing to that cake, I know one financial advisor who has had his own online community for their clients. He's been doing that for about 5 years now, and he did it exactly as I've just described, to add value to his existing clients. They bring in and recommend their friends and relatives to join that client. But what he also decided to do a couple of years ago was to start putting in some chargeable courses based around some aspect of personal finance. And he puts these in the community so that people are getting value from the community, but they can also pay to access an online course that he has created. He told me the other day that he's earning between 15 and 20,000 pounds a month from those online communities. So I just throw that one out to you as something to think about. Yep, online communities, they really work well. I've been doing it for donkey's years. It's right at the heart of everything I do. And I'm now seeing more and more financial advisors starting their own online communities as well. Okay, we press on. I'm conscious of time, but we've still got one or two to get through. Radio advertising, back in the day, radio advertising was perceived as very, very expensive. These days it's very much cheaper, but it is incredibly effective. My brother actually makes radio commercials, and he told me some statistic that apparently when we're watching TV, when the TV commercials come on, 76% of us fast forward or change channels. But on radio ads, when the ads come on, 76% of us do not change channels. And it's got what's called cut through. It's really powerful. It's inexpensive. It works. Think about it if you've that sort of budget. Let's have a think about LinkedIn. I have to tell you, LinkedIn is an absolute powerhouse of opportunity for financial advisors, although there are still quite a few financial advisors who tell me that best thing they ever did was to cancel it because there are too many recruiters. I have to tell you, if you are being approached by recruiters on LinkedIn, it's your fault. If you're not being approached by your ideal clients, it's your fault. And the reason why it's your fault is because most financial advisors on LinkedIn, they kind of position themselves as a generic financial advisor. And guess what? Recruiters are very good at finding generic looking financial advisors. You want to create your profile and aim it at your ideal client. Literally what I was talking about right at the start. And I've been doing some research on this. What's interesting, a little poll I've got going basically says, are you able to clearly identify what your ideal client looks like? My poll is telling me that most financial advisors cannot identify their ideal clients. I think that is really something to think about. And if you can identify an ideal client, make it the number one person that you write your profile aimed at. So perhaps in the later life market, it could be people nearing retirement. I would argue that's not really focused enough. It could be business owners, not really focused. High net worth, not really focused enough. People inheriting wealth, not really focused enough. I would think in a bit more depth about specific groups of people who could potentially respond to your marketing. I want to give you a couple of examples of financial advisors who really do know their ideal target market. Here's a financial advisor who really believes in target marketing. He's out in Colombia. His target market, he will only work with professional bass fishermen. That's a niche. He doesn't want to work with anybody else. He really knows these people's income stream. He knows how they earn their money. He's created his practice specifically to focus on these people. I'm not saying you need to focus on professional bass fishermen over the age of 55. What I'm saying is he knows really clearly who he wants to work with. Here's another guy, a financial advisor who only works with nuclear power plant workers. Now, he does this because he used to work in a nuclear power plant before he became a financial advisor. And when he became a financial advisor, this was his website homepage. That is a classic, absolute classic, generic, cliched website homepage, isn't it? Absolute nonsense, doesn't appeal to anyone. And then he realized, actually, what I actually know about is people who work in nuclear power plants. So he changed his website to make it much more focused. And he even used the nuclear power plant emergency operating procedure as a marketing tool for, and he created something really similar, but to talk about pensions. And he called it, what did he call it? Instead of the emergency operating procedures, he called it the financial operating procedures. In other words, he created a lead magnet or a piece of value that would really appeal to them and that would really resonate. Clients love it. They even chuckle at it, but they remember it. So have a think about that. What do you know about your clients? Are there groups of clients in your client base that you know quite a lot about? Maybe you could create more lead magnets that would appeal to more people like that. We talked about newsletter, but specifically I'm talking about newsletters on LinkedIn. There is a relatively new feature on LinkedIn that is a really quick way to get people to sign up for information that you want to share. Create a LinkedIn newsletter. Most financial advisors who are starting these now are getting several hundred people registering for this, and in some cases thousands of people signing up for their LinkedIn newsletter really very, very quickly. I created something, I wrote a newsletter about how financial advisors can use AI just the other day, and I did this through LinkedIn newsletter, and within just a few days the content of my LinkedIn newsletter was showing up in Google search results. So there's a thing to think about. If you use a LinkedIn newsletter, it will show up in Google search results. I want you also, just while we're talking about LinkedIn, to think about LinkedIn as a networking platform. Networking is a giving activity where you ask people questions about themselves, and you do it with the expectation of getting absolutely nothing in return. If you use LinkedIn as a networking tool, you will find that a lot of people really start paying attention. Now, here's a really interesting thing. The LinkedIn algorithm can recognize the difference between people who are just promoting themselves and people who are going out their way to engage with other people. So take LinkedIn seriously. Treat it as a bit like a website landing page. Have a look at, see who's been looking at your profile, and engage with people. Some financial advisors are also using LinkedIn Live, which is a way of like literally doing a live webinar. It's really, really powerful. LinkedIn also, instead of sending messages to people using the written thing, you can send voice messages to people. You could also send video messages to people on LinkedIn as well. So we're about wrapping up now. You'll remember at the very, very beginning, I mentioned about having an open mind, and I want to throw something at you right now which will demand an open mind, and that is creating an AI version of you. How about that? You train an AI on your website. Maybe you've written some blogs and some articles, and you can plug the AI into your website. So at first glance, it looks like a chatbot, but it's not. It engages with people in a really human-like way. It's very conversational. It'll answer FAQs, and it can pick up emotion even as well, which is amazing. And you, as the owner of the AI, people will put in their name, they'll put in their email address, and you can see the conversations that have taken place with your AI. It doesn't give financial advice. It just answers general questions. But here's the thing, you can plug it into your website, you can plug it into your LinkedIn profile. I've created one of me. There's an AI version of me, but I now go to this. I saw this and thought of you. sticking a yellow post-it note onto a piece of paper that you tore out of a newspaper and sending to put a handwritten note on it really gets people as attention. So we go from the sublime to the ridiculous. Having an AI that can act on your behalf is really powerful, but the humble post-it note is a wonderful marketing material. Just if you spot something in a newspaper, tear it out, stick a post-it note on it, write a handwritten note on it to a client, send it to them in the post.
Phil,
Yeah,
sorry to interject that. You've been going through some fantastic content and some great food for thought for the advisors already, and I know you've got some more to go through. I'm just really conscious to be having a window of opportunity for the advisors, just to be able to give them um, an opportunity to see if they've got any questions for you, perhaps, or for us at Standard Life and Finance here. If there's anything else you want to pick up here, Phil, of course we can. But I just thought I'd open the floor up again, just conscious of time. And
absolutely fine.
thank you, Phil.
Absolutely fine. Let me just jump to the very end
Please,
because I
amazing,
have got a bunch of resources which I really want people to be able to uh,
awesome.
get a hold of. I mentioned that community as we wrap up. Within there is 1,000 hours of marketing training for financial advisors, covering some of the things we've talked about today. There's free books. There's even a book on marketing and lead generation for financial advisors in there. We'll make sure you get a copy of this. Absolutely amazing content in there. Let me go back to you, Sanjay, so that we can wrap up.
Amazing, Phil. Yeah, and I knew you were on flow as well, and I didn't really want to stop you in your tracks because, again, some fantastic food for thought and some insight and ideas for the audience to consider. But really, just wanted to take stock, allow you to take a sip of water as well, and just open the floor up for those in the audience. Does anyone have any questions for Phil or for us at Standard Life and Finance? I did pick one up on chat that came through on the Q&As, which is a very valid question here around the end customer, in fact, where um, some customers really are, I guess they don't really want to share the news of the fact that they are a lifetime mortgage or an equity release customer. Um, I'm not sure, Phil, have you had that sort of feedback before, and what you'd suggest?
When you say share the news, tell me more. Expand on that.
So I think this one's come through. It says it doesn't seem to take into account that equity release clients don't want to let anyone know that they have taken out equity release.
That's
So I
fine. You
imagine,
don't have to.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
a it's
Do,
an
do you
interesting.
want? It
So,
was me who put that on there. Do you want me
oh, fab.
oh please, yeah, go for it.
yeah. I totally take on board what you're saying, Phil, and a lot of the stuff that you do, I do already. So that's good. That's good to hear. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff in there, that I'm not doing as well. But I would say a lot of the things when you're talking about, video things, getting clients to do videos, getting them to do that. I can see how that would work for financial advisors because people, are happy to say I'll deal with this financial, or, it's almost a boast, isn't it, that I've got enough money that I need a financial advisor. But with equity release, clients don't want to, I get reviews from clients and that's fine, but as long as they can do it sort of, almost that they just put their first name or something like that, they certainly wouldn't want to come on and put their face on there, put something on there to say that they are, that they've taken out equity release, or would refer you to their friends or whatever, because they don't want their friends to know that they've done equity release. So I can see that's just one point that I put there, but there's a few things as you've gone through that I've thought, yeah, I can see how that works for financial advisors, but I don't see how that works for equity release advisors.
Okay, I mean that's a really good point. One thing that's important is there will be some clients that will be more than happy to do that. There will be clients that will be more than happy to refer you. Equally, there'll be some that really don't want to. They want to talk to you. They want to take your expertise, do the transaction that you talked about. But there will be others. It's a really important one, and I just say that for financial advisors and equity release advisors that do this, if they are able to get some clients that will do video testimonials, they are ridiculously powerful. I said
Right.
it's not for
It's just
everyone.
that
I know
I've yet to come across. I've yet to come across anybody who actually wants to shout to the world that they've done equity release. I don't know what other people
Yep.
feel. Maybe somebody here has got an
I've
example of where
I've
they
got a
do
client.
have that.
Yeah, I've got a client who told me, or in fact, two clients. One's an equity release client, one's not. One's just a BTO client, and they both said, particularly the equity release one, she'd be more than happy to do a video testimonial. So
It's an
Brilliant.
interesting one. Let me twist this around to another way that makes it ridiculously public. I know financial advisors that do wealth and equity release and right across the piece. And there are some financial advisors, when they put on seminars, they actually, whenever someone registers for their seminar, they get in touch with every single one of them and they say, hey, thanks for registering. Hope you're going to enjoy it. We always like to do a bit of live case studies. And we're always looking for a couple of volunteers. Would you be interested in being a volunteer? And we will talk to you at the seminar and go through things live in front of other people. Would you be interested in that? Now, it's a bit the case that 95% of people will say, no, it's not for me. I just want to go along. But there are usually some people say, yeah, I am more than happy to do that. And it happens in the equity release space as well, where a real person comes along to your seminar and the financial advisor uses your circumstances and you stand up and wave to everybody. And this works because it's not just a case study that's been put on a website, because we can all make up a case study. It's a real person with a real situation, but there will be some people who are more than happy to do that. If you haven't got any, it's only a matter of time until you will find somebody who's more than happy to do that.
can I also ask you about seminars? Because I mean, my feeling is similar to that, was that people may not want to go to an equity release seminar because it's a bit like going to a AA meeting in a way, in that you're admitting you've got a problem, although also admittedly everyone else is in the same boat. But I've been talking to the IFA in my BNI group and about doing joint seminars on later life financing, which would incorporate both pensions and later life lending, not just equity release, but possibly RIOs as well.
Yep.
Do you know if those have been more successful or
Absolutely.
not?
It's really the seminar needs to have some focus. If we're putting on a generic talk on personal finance, which might include pensions, investments, and all that, you're not going to get many people come along. If it's really clear who this is aimed at and what's going to be covered, you get it much more. Now, here's the thing. If you do that and you follow the process, you can see ridiculously high conversion. I know financial advisors who are getting between 75 and 95% conversion rates. That means they come along and they want to talk to an advisor afterwards. So yes, that can work well. I think they go hand in. I personally think the wealth market and the equity release market go hand in hand. They really, really do. I'm seeing more and more wealth advisors, financial planners who once upon a time said they wouldn't put a foot in anything related to lending. They are now realizing, oh, actually, equity release, later life market is a seriously important part of financial planning. And they're more than happy to team up with perhaps an expert like yourself, Nigel, who actually knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, I remember it used to be that, I'm sorry to use the C word with Sanjay here, but Canada Life used to say about, keep the money in your pension and take it out of your home instead. And so, maybe that's a way
So,
you could jointly talk with an IFA.
yeah. So Jan, who just put a question up, here's the process, or I don't know if you can see it. So this book is called Successful Seminars for Financial Advisors. There's a free copy of that in the advisor growth community for anyone. It is literally step by step how to plan, promote, and present seminars, and it's got case studies of advisors that do this all the time.
Okay, I might do that. While you were talking earlier, I googled my local bowling club, and they have got they've got an existing IFA sponsor, but they don't have any sort of mortgage sponsor at all. So I might give them a call.
Interesting. Yeah, I think if we were wrap this up, Sanjay, everything I've been talking about here today is about relationship building, and it's also about education. education is the core. We all know, and I've at one of your events before, Sanjay, we asked everybody for a show of hands. How many myths do you think there are around equity release and later life lending? And it was hysterical, the answers that came up. And there's the source of your marketing. It's what people believe about this that isn't true or is half true. And you guys and girls, you're the experts. There are so many different ways to educate consumers around the value that you can give them.
Absolutely. No, just to sort of add to that regarding what other lenders have been offering on the retirement strategy with lifetime mortgages, we're certainly building in that space as well at Standard Life and Finance. So we've got some assets that have already been produced and are being produced to support that for the end of 24 and going into 25 as well. Phil, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us and providing some insights in terms of some hints and tips and some ideas. For the audience, as I mentioned at the start of this, we have a series of webinars. The next one's taking place on Thursday, the 7th of November, where we've got to meet one of our underwriters, who is Pat Lease. Subsequently, the following Thursday, we've got one meeting our post-offer and enact teams. And lastly, we'll be finishing off with the marketing tools that we've got available to support you through the advice process. I've seen a few more questions in the chat. Colin, I will absolutely get that slide over to you. And Martin, of course, will ensure that we will get some copies of the slides. I think Phil mentioned it earlier on in his presentation that the slides will be available to be shared. So once again, thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you've had some great insight and a lot of content to digest from Phil. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you soon and supporting you with your customers.
Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.
Enjoy the rest of your day. All the best.
Bye.